Look at your phone right now. You think you bought a tool, but you actually signed a confession. You're probably unaware that you're a part of a $4 trillion marketing machine, a cult that has successfully convinced you to shell out thousands for a piece of glass and silicon that cost them almost nothing to make. You could have chosen a smarter, cheaper alternative, but you didn't, because in this cult, leaving isn't an option. It started with the 1984 Super Bowl ad, positioning Apple as the rebel against Big Brother. But look at the chronology. They didn't destroy Big Brother, they became him. They've watched as people literally sold their kidneys just to afford the entry fee. But while you're mesmerized by the minimalist aesthetic, the machine is watching you back. In 2019, it was revealed that contractors were listening to your Siri recordings, not just your commands, but your most intimate bedroom encounters and medical secrets. They track your location like a cult leader, and you pay them for the privilege. They've moved way beyond being a profitable company. The question isn't whether Apple is a cult. The question is, what is the secret kill switch they've installed in your brain to keep you from ever walking away? Apple doesn't just build products, they build a walled garden. It looks paradise-like from the outside, pristine, intuitive, and safe. But once you step inside and the gate clicks shut, you realize it wasn't built to keep the world out. It was built to keep you in. Every device you buy, every update you download, and every feature you enable is a brick in that wall. This is the Apple ecosystem, a digital enclosure designed to turn you into a lifelong cult member. Switching to a competitor isn't just an inconvenience, it's an extraction mission. Because once your entire life, your photos, your passwords, your family's memories is stored on their servers, the cost of leaving becomes too high to pay. Apple boasts a staggering 90% customer loyalty rate, but don't be fooled. That's not just satisfaction. It's a calculated lock-in. This garden is meticulously designed so that every expensive accessory you add becomes a new dependent in your mind. Think about it. Your AirPods, your Apple Watch, and your Apple TV are engineered to work best or only with Apple hardware. If you've been a loyalist for 15 years, are you really going to throw away thousands of dollars in accessories just to try a different phone? Or will you stay in your golden handcuffs, fearing the unknown and growing to love your servitude? And here's the kicker they never mention at the keynotes: the exit tax. Did you know that every app, movie, and in-app purchase you've made on the App Store is effectively worthless outside the walls? They aren't transferable to Windows or Android. If you want to leave the cult, you have to buy your entire digital life all over again. Leaving feels impossible, and that is by design. You'll tell yourself, no way. Apple is just a better experience overall. That's why I'm with them. But that's the genius of the brainwashing. Once you're in the garden, your vision is tunneled. You stop seeing the walls, you only see the next upgrade. You've grown to love the bars of your cage because they're made of polished titanium. But as you settle into your comfortable servitude, you're ignoring the most dangerous part of the architecture. Because while you're looking at the garden, Apple is looking at you. And their tracking goes far deeper than a simple GPS coordinate. But the walls of the garden aren't just there to keep you in. They're there to hide what's happening to the devices you've already paid for. Did you know that in 2018, Apple faced a global wave of lawsuits that exposed what many believe to be one of the dirtiest, darkest sales tactics in corporate history? They were accused of planned obsolescence, deliberately sabotaging their own older iPhones through software updates. Think about the sheer coldness of that strategy. While Apple executives toasted to record-breaking profits, millions of people, some in the world's poorest countries, watched their lifeline to the world begin to die. It was called Batterygate. Lawsuits claimed that Apple used software updates to throttle or slow down the performance of models like the iPhone 6, 7, and the original SE. Suddenly, apps took forever to open. Phones would shut down without warning, even with 30% battery left. Investigators claim this wasn't an accident. It was a covert operation to force you into an upgrade you didn't need. Combined with the walled garden we just discussed, users felt they had no choice. They couldn't just switch to a competitor without losing their entire digital life. So they walked right back into the Apple Store and dropped another $1,000 on a new model. Apple, of course, denied everything, but the numbers tell a different story. To make the problem go away, they shelled out $500 million in a U.S. class action settlement. In the end, affected American users received a mere $92 each, a drop in the bucket compared to the cost of a new phone. But for the rest of the world, in many countries, users haven't seen a single cent. In Europe, the scrutiny is still intensifying. Regulators have investigated Apple for shortening product lifespans just to keep the money printing machine running at $391 billion a year. Under the weight of public outrage, they were finally forced to offer a cut-price battery replacement service, a small concession for a multi-trillion-dollar empire. They paid for the silence, denied the wrongdoing, and moved on to the next launch. But the throttling was just the digital side of the trap. To see the true genius of their manipulation, you have to look at where the conversion actually happens. Because when you step foot into an Apple store, you aren't just a customer. You're a target entering a highly sophisticated psychological trap. If the walled garden is the prison, then the Apple Store is the recruitment center. When you walk into an Apple Store, you'll notice something strange. It's cool, it's calm, and there is no music. The products aren't stacked on shelves, they're placed on minimalist wooden pedestals, spaced apart like sacred relics on an altar. There are no visible price tags. You haven't walked into a retail shop, you've entered a temple, and every inch of this temple is engineered to hack your brain. Take the laptops, for example. Every morning, employees use a special app to set the MacBook screens to an awkward angle of precisely 76 degrees. Why? Because at that angle, the screen is just tilted enough that you can't see it properly. It forces you to reach out and adjust it. The second you touch that metal, a psychological phenomenon called the endowment effect kicks in. Your brain begins to trigger a sense of ownership. You aren't just looking anymore. You're subconsciously deciding that this device is already yours. But the manipulation goes deeper. Have you noticed that there are no lineups? Apple removed them. They don't want you standing in a queue having second thoughts about an overpriced purchase. Instead, salespeople roam the floor like deacons, armed with mobile payment devices to catch you the moment your guard is down. These employees are trained to work you like a target for conversion. Apple actually forbids the use of negative language. Their teams of psychological experts instruct them to never say "unfortunately." Instead, they use phrases like "as it turns out." A bug is called a condition. A hot phone is a bit warm. It's a linguistic filter designed to keep the Colt's image flawless. And if you're looking for a price, good luck. Apple hides price cards in obscure places, forcing you to engage with a salesperson. Once they have you, they'll put a device in your hands and let you play. They know that once you've handled the goods, the logic part of your brain shuts off and the emotion part takes over. That's when they hit you with the Machiavellian middle tier trap. Apple often offers a base model, say 64 GB, that they know is completely inadequate for modern apps and 4K video. It exists only to make the next jump seem necessary. You're forced to leap past the middle to the 256 GB or 512 GB option, adding hundreds of dollars to the price tag. You didn't want to spend that much, but Apple's pricing architecture made the cheaper choice feel like trash. You walk out of the store feeling like you've made an investment, but in reality, you've just been processed by one of the most sophisticated sales operations on the planet. But the control doesn't end when you leave the store. To maintain a $4 trillion empire, you have to control the narrative. And when it comes to marketing, Apple doesn't just play the game, they bend the rules of reality itself. If the Apple Store is the cathedral, then the September keynote is the high-stakes sermon. Apple has mastered a psychological weapon more powerful than any processor: FOMO, the fear of missing out. They don't just launch a product, they manufacture a global crisis of inadequacy. Every year they spend billions on marketing to convince you that the device in your pocket, which was magical only 12 months ago, is now a prehistoric relic leaving you in the dust. Their product launches are engineered like mega church revivals. The speaker pauses with calculated precision, the crowd erupts on cue, and the cheerleaders in the front rows are ecstatic. They've turned a minor spec bump into a religious experience. This isn't a tech briefing. It's a psychological reset designed to make you feel inferior until you've handed over your credit card. In the cold light of reality, Android manufacturers are often releasing the same features, sometimes better ones, for a fraction of the price in zero fanfare. But when you're part of a cult, logic is the first thing to go. From the walled garden to planned obsolescence and crafty retail sales tactics, we've peeled back the skin of this $4 trillion empire. These aren't just business strategies. They are a masterclass in psychological warfare designed to keep Apple in the pole position at any cost. Is Apple a cult? Between the blue bubble shaming and the religious tier devotion of its followers, the theory isn't so strange anymore. They've moved beyond manufacturing. They've created a lifelong identity held together by golden handcuffs. These methods aren't illegal, they're brilliant. For every entrepreneur watching, the lesson is clear. Control the experience, engineer the desire, and build a brand people will defend like a religion. Whether you scale the walls or enjoy your servitude is up to you. But now you know who's pulling the strings. If you found this expose insightful, hit the like button and subscribe to CEO Philosophy. We'll see you in the next episode.